Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we're really diving into something fascinating, some really profound, almost, well, astonishing riddles that shape how we think about global security, about power, really. You've shared some incredibly thought-provoking source material with us, and, right at the heart of it is this concept we're calling the numbers paradox. Yeah, the sources kick off with a couple of scenarios that, honestly, they just make you stop and think. They challenge your gut feelings. Like, consider this one. How can 500 million Europeans ask 300 million Americans to protect them from 140 million Russians? And then there's this other one, maybe even more stark. Why do 2 billion Muslims look to the rest of the world for protection from 7 million Jews? Now, these aren't just abstract puzzles. They're really potent examples, aren't they? They point to a fundamental misunderstanding, maybe, about where real strength actually comes from. It's a challenge to this, deeply ingrained myth, and we'll explore why it might be dangerous that just having more people or more stuff automatically means you're powerful.
Before we get deeper into this, it's really important we clarify something right at the start. These provocative questions and the analysis that follows looking at Europe, Russia, the Muslim world, this all comes directly from the source material you've shared with us. Our job here, our mission, is just to unpack and convey the ideas, the arguments, the frameworks in that material impartially. We're not taking sides, not endorsing any political view. We're just exploring the concepts presented in the research you gave us.
And that's absolutely vital, because what's so illuminating, right, is how these questions immediately expose this core misconception we often have about power dynamics. We seem almost wired, to equate bigness, huge populations, massive armies, giant economies with strength. It feels almost self-evident. Yet as these riddles show so clearly, those raw numbers, they can be really deceptive, a facade almost, hiding deeper vulnerabilities. And that prevents us from grasping what really makes for strategic strength. So that's our task today, our deep dive. Peel back those layers, look at the real architecture of power. We're trying to get beyond the simple counting, understand what truly makes a nation or any entity really resilient and influential.
Exactly. So our mission is to unpack this numbers paradox. It's central to understanding national resilience, international security, all of it. We're going to dissect why quantity without quality, without unity, without a coherent doctrine, can leave even these numerically huge entities feeling, vulnerable. We want to challenge that gut assumption, dig into the complexities, and hopefully equip you, our listener, with a more discerning way to look at global affairs. We're not just counting, we're looking at the strategic alchemy, maybe, how potential becomes real capability.
In thinking bigger picture, this concept is just foundational for any kind of strategic thinking. Whether it's nations or businesses or even, personal strategy, we're not just observing what happens in these scenarios. We really want to get at the why behind them. How is real power actually built? We believe it's meticulously architected, deliberately constructed through smart choices, strategic investments, strong institutions. It's not just tallied up. Our goal is to find those aha moments, the ones that explain why some players consistently punch above their weight, defying the simple statistics, showing a kind of strategic prowess that their size just doesn't predict.
Right. So by the end of this deep dive, the idea is you'll have a fresh perspective, maybe even a radically different one, on what power really is. Moving beyond simple math, to appreciate the intricate dance between quality, strategy, and that deeper sense of purpose. It's like shifting from seeing the world in black and white numbers to understanding its complex, sometimes surprising shades.
And importantly, this isn't just theory. That's always the hook for me. We're going to look at real-world examples. Critically, we'll delve into a really compelling case study, Pakistan, how it strategically defied massive numerical disadvantages, how it achieved a kind of strategic parity that, it completely confounds the simple calculators. Like you said, it's not about counting heads. It's about building an architecture, an intricate one, that converts potential under pressure into real decisive power. It's about intelligently using everything you have in a unified way to create an effect much bigger than just the sum of the parts.
Okay, so let's really dig into this paradox, starting with that core assumption behind those opening riddles. When Poland's Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, posed his question about European security, he was basically working from this idea that mathematics is strategy, right? We see it all the time. Bigger economy means more clout, bigger army means more security, bigger population equals more strength. It seems logical. But the sources we're looking at argue this is exactly where the paradox kicks in, where real strategic thinking has to diverge from that simple, intuitive math.
It's amazing how deep that intuition runs, isn't it? On a really basic level, almost primal, bigger numbers feel safer, more dominant. You picture a huge crowd versus one person, or this massive army stretching out. There's a sort of comfort in scale. And this bias gets reinforced, maybe unintentionally, by history books that sometimes oversimplify victories. They credit the sheer numbers, the resources, rather than maybe the brilliant tactics or the better organization or just the sheer willpower that actually won the day. But international security, it's just far more nuanced than arithmetic can capture. Sheer population numbers or counting tanks. It doesn't automatically equal effective power. That mass is just, well, inert potential until it's organized, trained, led with clear goals. Without those qualitative things, quantity can actually become a burden, cumbersome, a liability, not an asset.
And it's not just a theory, is it? History seems to back this up. You look back, and time and again, you see these smaller, more agile, better organized, maybe more strategically clever forces winning against much larger opponents. It's not some freak occurrence that feels like a recurring pattern.
Yeah.
Suggests a deeper truth than just the numbers on the surface.
Absolutely. And connecting this to those broader historical patterns, it really shows that when societies start to confuse size with strength, they often make some really bad strategic choices. One of the biggest consequences, they tend to outsource their security. Instead of doing the hard long-term work of building their own capabilities, their own deterrent, investing in their people, their institutions, they lean on others. Or they just assume their size will protect them. And that reliance, that outsourcing, it breeds complacency, doesn't it?
It seems like it would have to.
Yeah, it leads to this lack of urgent investment in the crucial stuff like advanced doctrine, top-notch training, innovative tech. Resources get misallocated. Think about the danger for leaders who only look at population stats or GDP. They might totally underestimate a smaller, nimbler opponent who's invested in quality and unity. Or, just as bad, they overestimate their own real capacity, leads to this false sense of security, maybe relying on someone else's protection instead of forging their own independent strength. That external dependence, it creates a massive strategic vulnerability that just dwarfs any superficial numbers advantage.
Which brings us right back, maybe with more urgency now, to that initial, almost painful question. How can a community of almost 2 billion feel strategically dependent? For our deep dive today, this really gets to the core of the paradox, applying it to a huge chunk of the world's people. Immense potential in numbers, resources, yet often a perception of weakness or reliance.
Right, and it forces us to ask, what's going on there? What causes that disconnect between the raw numbers and the perceived strength? The core argument presented is brutally simple. Fragmented capacity behaves like no capacity. That if you have 2 billion people or vast resources, but they're scattered, disunited, or crucially lack a coherent strategic framework to tie them together, those impressive numbers just kind of evaporate. Strategically, they don't add up. We have to distinguish between raw demographic potential and actual actionable power. Potential is just that, potential. It's like having all the ingredients for an amazing meal scattered everywhere. Mountains of flour over here, spices way over there, great produce across the valley. You could have billions of individual ingredients, each valuable. But without the recipe, without the skilled chef, and critically, without the organized kitchen, the institutions to gather, organize, direct those resources. That potential just sits there, unconverted. Frustratingly useless on a grand scale. Institutions are what concentrate power. They provide structure, command, unified purpose. Sheer numbers, left alone, they scatter, they dilute, they neutralize their own strength. Real power isn't in the parts, it's in how they work together, guided by a clear strategic vision.
Okay, so we've established that numbers alone can be an illusion, a misleading metric. Now, let's go deeper. Let's dismantle this flawed idea that strategy can just treat people as identical units, because, as the sources stress, they're just not. Everyone brings different skills, experiences, potential, and how you organize, lead, and equip them makes all the difference in turning that latent potential into real strength.
You've nailed a critical point there. That simplification, treating humans like interchangeable cogs, it's strategically deadly. It strips away all the qualitative stuff, the nuances that are truly decisive, especially in security and defense. We're talking about a whole range of critical factors. Things like better leadership, the kind that inspires, unifies, directs people towards a complex goal. A superior doctrine, not just a manual, but a smart, adaptive way of operating effectively. Rigorous training, honing skills into collective excellence, making actions precise. Advanced technology, not just gadgets, but tools that multiply individual capabilities, changing the whole game. Precise intelligence, knowing what's happening, anticipating, making smart decisions. Robust logistics, the unsung hero, keeping everything moving, supplied, sustained, and maybe most crucial, moral conviction. that unshakable belief that drives endurance, resilience, commitment.
So each of those isn't just a nice to have, it's a force multiplier.
Exactly. Each one multiplies effectiveness. Think of a great leader turning individuals into a cohesive unit. Or superior doctrine optimizing tactics. Tech letting fewer people do more. These are the real qualitative ingredients that transform raw potential into power you can actually use. Decisive power.
So the core thesis here, what you're really saying is, quality properly organized defeats quantity. It's about leveraging those intangible but powerful human and system elements.
That sums it up perfectly. And the real strategic magic happens when that quality isn't just there, but it's amplified through unity. This is where that principle comes in. Unity of command amplifies quality. You could have tons of brilliant people, strategists, soldiers, engineers, but if they're all doing their own thing, no shared vision, no conductor, that their collective impact is way less, maybe even zero.
Like an orchestra without a conductor.
Precisely. Think of a world-class orchestra. Each musician is a master, that's the quality. But it's the conductor, the shared score, the unified interpretation that creates that breathtaking power and harmony. Imagine those same brilliant musicians playing whatever they want, whenever they want. Chaos, right? Despite all the individual talent. Unity of command is that conductor. It channels all that skill towards one goal, makes the whole exponentially more powerful than just adding up the parts. It's about coherent effort.
And building on quality, the source material adds another layer, one that's often overlooked. Spiritual purpose adds depth, endurance, and will. This isn't just about religion necessarily, but that deep shared conviction, something beyond the material.
This is so crucial and, frequently underestimated. Its strategic impact is huge. A shared belief, a core conviction, secular or spiritual, gives you very real advantages that spreadsheets miss. It builds incredible resilience against hardship. It boosts morale when things look bad. It fosters this unwavering commitment to a cause that goes beyond self-interest. Think about inspiring sacrifice, perseverance, but you can't just buy that or force it easily. When people truly believe, they endure unbelievable things, they support each other, they push limits, that collective will becomes a real strategic asset, especially in the long struggles. It allows groups to keep going, maybe even win, long after a purely materialistic calculation says they should quit. It's that internal compass, that moral strength, connects right back to that moral conviction we mentioned as part of quality. It turns struggle into meaning, into purpose.
Which loops us back again to the specific context in the source material, the Muslim world. Possessing immense resources, geography, markets, demography, incredible potential on paper. Yet, as the source points out really clearly, often grappling with a lack of integration, all these powerful pieces are there, but maybe not connected into a coherent, powerful whole.
And that just highlights the core challenge perfectly. That saying, potential power is unconverted power until it's structured, is just so spot on. It resonates way beyond geopolitics, too. Think about, say, a nation with huge oil reserves. That's potential power, right? But until you built the wells, the pipelines, the refineries, the infrastructure, that oil just stays in the ground, latent, useless, converting potential into real strategic power. It's hard, complex. What does integration even mean here? It means deep economic cooperation, aligning political goals, building military forces that can actually work together, sharing intel, best practices. It means actively overcoming old divisions, narrow interests, and focusing on shared needs, collective security.
It sounds like a massive undertaking.
It is. And it's a lesson for all of us, maybe. Individuals, organizations. How often do we have great potential, talents, ideas, resources that stays unconverted because we lack the structure, the plan, the integration to make it real? It's about intentional design to harness what you have.
Okay, now let's shift to a real-world example that really seems to break the calculator, as the source puts it, something that brings all these principles to life. We're going to look closely at Pakistan, which, according to the material you shared, has masterfully used these very concepts to achieve strategic parity against what look like overwhelming odds.
This is exactly where the theory gets practical. Vividly so. Picture the scene. A nation facing a neighbor roughly 7 times its population, 5 times its landmass. By all the standard metrics, by that mathematics' strategy logic, it should be a situation of permanent disadvantage, strategic subservience almost. Yet, Pakistan, through deliberate, decades-long effort, achieved strategic parity. How? Not magic. It was through a sophisticated approach called asymmetric equalization.
Asymmetric equalization.
Okay.
Break that down a bit.
It basically means you don't try to copy your adversary's size or match them tank for tank, soldier for soldier, where they have the advantage. That's a losing game. Instead, you intelligently find their critical weaknesses. You leverage your own unique strengths. and you develop capabilities that can neutralize their numbers, often by making aggression too costly for them. It's about outthinking, outmaneuvering, outstrategizing, not just outmassing, creating a dynamic where your smaller, smarter force can get decisive results against a larger, maybe clumsier opponent.
And the source highlights a specific historical example right from the early days.
Yeah.
The 1965 Chawinda battle sounds like it was a major test.
Oh, absolutely. Chawinda in '65 was huge, one of the biggest tank battles since World War II, apparently. A real crucible where these ideas about quality were tested under fire. Pakistan's armor was significantly outnumbered, but through superior tactics, and importantly, the sheer motivation of their troops, they held the line, stopped the advance. This wasn't just luck or a few clever tricks. It was highly trained crews, operating with skill and discipline. It was innovative doctrine, using terrain, surprise, decisive leadership on the ground. And underpinning it all was that sense of purpose, that morale that let them perform way beyond what the numbers suggested.
So the human element really made the difference.
Critically, their skill, discipline, will. It overcame the numerical gap. Chawinda stands as this powerful testament to how quality, organized, and purposeful can change the outcome, even when the odds are stacked against you. Courage and cunning versus raw firepower.
Moving forward in time to a more contemporary and, frankly, world-altering example, Pakistan's nuclear deterrent. That feels like the ultimate asymmetric equalizer.
It absolutely is a textbook example. Pakistan's nuclear capability is a massive strategic achievement. Developed under immense pressure with limited resources, yet it successfully turned a huge conventional disadvantage into a stable strategic balance. The core idea is mutually assured destruction made D. It doesn't matter how many more tanks or planes the other side has. If you have a credible nuclear response, the cost of attacking you becomes unacceptably high. Existential even.
It levels the playing field, regardless of conventional numbers.
Exactly. It levels the playing field. This balance, achieved through decades of focused, qualitative investment in science and engineering, lets a nation protect its core interests without matching its rivals conventionally in every single area. It's a powerful demonstration of how one highly potent capability can neutralize a vast numerical difference, a security guarantee disproportionate to conventional might.
And looking even more recently at modern capabilities, the source points to Pakistan's current multi-domain readiness, another way to punish mass without matching it.
That's right. Modern multi-domain readiness shows how advanced tech and integrated strategy keep acting as equalizers. Think about things like electronic warfare blinding, deafening, disrupting enemy communications, command, sensors, paralyzing their ability to coordinate, or precision strike surgical attacks on critical targets, command centers, infrastructure, using minimal resources, no need for massed forces. And integrated air defense systems creating this strong shield against air attacks, making them incredibly costly for an aggressor.
So it's about finding smart leverage points.
Precisely. These capabilities let a smaller, smarter force punish mass without matching it, target critical weak spots, degrade their ability to operate, deny them freedom of action in key areas: air, land, sea, cyberspace. Electronic warfare can neutralize fancy tech. Precision strikes cripple logistics with few resources. Air defense makes mass attacks suicidal. These are real examples of how technology, combined with good doctrine, training, and an integrated approach, multiplies the effectiveness of a smaller force. Linked right back to tech being a key ingredient of real power. Hashtag a proposed blueprint for a new security architecture.
What's really striking here is that the source material doesn't just stop at analysis or history. It actually lays out a vision for practical implementation. It's described as a program for building a new security architecture, moving beyond just talk into a concrete plan.
Yeah, and that's a critical distinction. It makes the material feel very active. It's not just describing what is, but proposing what could be, and it does it with this structured, integrated methodology. The book apparently weaves together history, strategy, religious scholarship, contemporary case studies. This kind of holistic, multidisciplinary approach is vital, isn't it? Building a robust security framework isn't just about military stuff in isolation. It has to address everything a nation's identity, capabilities, aspirations. By drawing on all these fields, the blueprint aims for something deeply rooted, comprehensively understood, more resilient, more adaptable, because it considers culture, history, modern realities, tech, the whole picture.
And it mentions this specific dual foundation, rooted in authentic Islamic principles and modern strategic practice. That's an interesting mix. Suggests tradition isn't seen as a barrier, but maybe a strength.
Exactly. A key idea in the source is that Islamic authenticity increases, not decreases, strategic effectiveness. Now, it's important to see this less as a purely religious statement and more as a strategic observation about human motivation, about cohesion. How could authentic principles boost effectiveness? Well, think about morale, unity, resilience again. A shared, deep belief system can forge incredibly strong bonds, create resilience against adversity, a collective will. It can also guide ethics in warfare, which maybe counterintuitively can actually boost legitimacy, gain support, and give long-term advantage through moral authority.
So that internal compass translates to external strength.
In a way, yes. It can inspire greater commitment, foster discipline, lead to a more cohesive, effective force overall. It ties right back to that idea of spiritual purpose and moral conviction being real strategic assets, letting a society go beyond just material calculations.
The source even mentions this ambitious 10 parts 1 arc structure, like a detailed roadmap for this security architecture. Gives a sense of the scope.
It really does. Signals a very thought-out approach. We can't cover every part now, obviously, but even a quick look shows how comprehensive it is. For instance, part 1 is history, showing how quality defeats quantity using both Islamic and global record with Pakistan as proof. Sets the stage. Then there's a part on Pakistan's qualifications, its military, geopolitical, ideological leadership in this context, positioning it as a potential anchor. It defines common threats broadly, from territorial coercion to economic warfare. Understanding the landscape, a key section is the framework, the idea of a Pakistan-led security architecture. And significantly, it's contrasted with the Abraham Accords paradigm.
Contrasted. That suggests a very different approach to regional security.
It certainly implies a different philosophy, maybe one focused more on internal strength, collective self-reliance, different alliances versus deals brokered externally. And finally, there's a part on civilizational upside, seeing security not just as an end goal, but as an engine for economic, diplomatic, and cultural renewal. This whole structure shows that building real security is about much more than just military power. It's tied to everything: identity, economy, culture, purpose, a truly integrated vision.
Let's loop back to that Tusk riddle one last time, because underneath the surface question, there's that powerful, almost universal truth that really resonates with this whole paradox: we must count on ourselves. That feels like the ultimate lesson here.
You've pulled out the core insight perfectly, and its application is universal. The Muslim world's sustainable security won't come from others. It must be built internally. This isn't just for one community, it's for any nation. Any group seeking real sovereignty, real stability, relying on others for security is dangerous. Alliances shift, priorities change, aid often comes with strings attached. It compromises real autonomy. True sovereignty, lasting security, demands developing your own capabilities, investing in your people, cultivating talent, building strong institutions, developing your own tech, your own doctrine suited to your needs, not just passively relying on others' goodwill or strategic interests. It's a call for self-determination, strategic maturity.
And crucially, as we've discussed all along, the self-reliance isn't just about piling up more soldiers or tanks. It's more sophisticated than that.
Precisely. It's fundamentally about building and strengthening the institutions that turn potential into power. Institutions are the vehicles. They take abstract potential population, resources, ideas, and systematically turn it into real, usable capability. How? Well, they organize resources efficiently, they foster expertise through learning, research, development, they ensure knowledge is passed on, applied effectively. Institutions provide continuity too. Stability beyond individual leaders or political shifts, enabling long-term planning, disciplined execution. They're the structures that give form, direction, momentum to a collective will, allowing a nation to act cohesively, strategically. Without them, potential just stays potential, an empty promise.
And this is where Pakistan's role, as presented in the sources, really connects. It's not just a historical case study. It's shown to have a living foundation for these ideas.
Absolutely. Pakistan already demonstrates the mindset, deterrence, and doctrine to anchor such an alliance, or at least be a powerful example. We saw the mindset and doctrine at Chawinda: determination, resourcefulness, superior tactics, overcoming numbers. The nuclear program is the deterrence piece, achieving strategic balance through focused, qualitative investment. And its modern, multi-domain readiness, electronic warfare, precision strike, air defense, shows a sophisticated doctrine geared towards that asymmetric equalization. These aren't just flukes. They represent a consistent strategic approach, proven over time, built on self-reliance and smart application of power.
The source material also adds this sense of urgency, calling 2025 a hinge year. Not some distant future plan, but a pressing need, a window opening maybe.
Yeah, that timing is striking. Why now? A hinge year suggests a rare moment where old paradigms are cracking, new alignments are possible. Global politics is always shifting, but sometimes things get really fluid. Old orders are challenged, assumptions break down, the whole landscape becomes malleable. These moments are windows of opportunity. New power structures, new alliances, new security architectures can emerge. In times like these, delay narrows options. These chances don't last forever, but action expands them. Proactive players can shape the new reality, set the terms, rather than just reacting. It's a call for foresight, for decisive action, recognizing these pivotal moments are rare and need to be seized.
And this all leads to that powerful, summing up call to action from the source, tying everything together. Stop counting heads, start unifying hearts and minds under a doctrine where faith, discipline, and strategic excellence convert numbers into decisive capability.
That really does capture the ultimate takeaway from the numbers paradox, doesn't it? It's more than just strategy, it's like a manifesto. It rejects passive reliance on demographics or wealth. It champions building power actively, intentionally from within, unifying hearts and minds that links right back to those quality factors. Moral conviction, unity of command, faith, that's the deep purpose, the shared belief, the commitment fueling resilience, courage. Discipline, the training, doctrine, organization, execution needed to harness potential effectively. And strategic excellence, the leadership, intelligence, logistics, technology, enabling that asymmetric edge. Letting smaller, smarter entities achieve big results. Together, these things are the alchemy. Converting mere numbers, latent potential into real, decisive strategic strength. It's about architecting power, not just inheriting it. #tag outro.
Wow. We have really covered a lot of ground today on the deep dive. Started with those challenging riddles, questioning if numbers equal power. We journeyed through this idea of strategic alchemy quality, organization, doctrine trumping sheer quantity. It really shifts your perspective, doesn't it? From just looking at scale to seeing the substance underneath.
Absolutely. And the big takeaway, I think, is that real lasting security isn't something you can just import or count on a balance sheet. It has to be built actively, intentionally from within. Through institutions, a purposeful approach, using all your assets smartly, like the Pakistan case study illustrates. It's about deliberately converting potential into power through design, will, and collective effort.
So thinking about you, our listener, we've talked about how nations grapple with quality versus quantity, unity versus fragmentation, potential versus structure. How might these big ideas echo in your world, your work, your community, maybe even just personally?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question to ponder, isn't it? How could you apply these principles, quality over quantity, or maybe even asymmetric equalization, in the challenges you face? In your job, say, are you counting heads or unifying hearts and minds? In your community, what are the institutions, formal or informal, that need building or strengthening? How can you help convert the potential around you, talents, resources, ideas, into real capability that achieves goals and makes a real difference? It's about looking beyond the obvious, finding leverage in the unseen.
That is a powerful thought to leave everyone with, something that goes way beyond the geopolitical headlines. Thanks so much for joining us on the Deep Dive.
And yes, thank you. We really encourage you to keep thinking critically about where power and influence truly come from in the big world and in your own. Until next time.